Welcome to the Victory Project.
We're all here because we believe in the mission.
What are we doing?
Changing the world.
What are we doing?
Changing the world.
That's right.
What do you think they're really doing out there?
What do you mean?
The one thing they ask of us is to stay here, where it's safe.
Do you even know what the Victory Project actually is? Have you ever asked?
Do you?
Please. What's actually happening?
Stop it, Alice.
What if this place is dangerous? What if...
No. Jack, it's okay. I'm curious to hear where she's going with this.
I know a lot of people went into this movie because they wanted to see if the controversies were true or even if the controversies played into the movie. And I'm going to say this right off the bat. The controversies, yes, this movie came out a couple months ago, but I waited because I didn't want the thought of all the controversies surrounding this movie to interfere with movie watching experience. So I knew about them, like, repeat that everyone has heard. There's the whole controversy that Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine. There's one where apparently Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde were making out. There was allegedly a fight of words between Florence Pugh and Olivia Wilde on the set. And it just kept diving and diving and diving from there. And a lot of people weren't focusing on the movie because they were hearing about the controversies. So it's a bit weird. But I was able to block that out of my head while I was watching the movie. And Okay, I'll get the positives out of the way first. One of the positive things that I actually really liked about the movie was the art direction. The art direction was really well done. That and set design. Very, very much like that Technicolor look to it. Very bright colors. I think it was very, very. I was very, very impressed with the way that the whole sanctuary looked like. The cinematography, I thought certain shots were quite great and inventive. Now, the acting, I think okay. So I'll get to that in a little bit. So the movie is about. It takes place in the sanctuary, if you want to call it that, in the 1950s. And this couple, who is Florence Pugh and Harry Styles, they are just like living in happiness. Even though Harry Styles, all the men in this little town, they go off to work, but they can't tell what they're doing to anybody else, and the wives stay home and clean and cook and make the man feel happy. Very much a product of the 1950s, where I guess you could say the roles were defined. I guess if you want to say that, but Florence Pugh starts realizing like certain things aren't in the ordinary, and something much more sinister is underneath this whole project. So this is apparently an experimental project. That's why there's only like a certain number of people there. But and it's headed by Chris Pine, who I think he's one of the better actors in the movie of what they give him to do. Now, here's where the negatives come in. Florence Pugh, everything that I've seen her in, from Black Widow to Midsummer, she's great. In fact, Black Widow, it was basically her movie. It was her and David Harbour's movie. Midsummer, she was the sole focus of the film, and I thought that was a really, really good movie. Now here, she's really good, but here's where the negatives come in. The script, not very good, and in fact, like, you also have like Olivia Wilde acts in this too. You also have Nick Kroll in this too, which Nick Kroll, seeing him in like something other than comedy, and he's playing it straightforward in here, I always like when an actor, like especially a comedic actor, takes a turn and goes into more serious stuff, like Jordan Peele with his movies. Or if you haven't watched Bill Hader in Barry, I absolutely recommend you do that, because that show was absolutely amazing. And that was the thing I watched where it showed me that Bill Hader can actually be a serious actor. That and It Chapter 2, where he was one of the best things about that movie. But we'll move on from that. But I like that transition. And even if you watch my review for Barbarian, the director of that came from more of a comedy background. So I always like seeing that shift and say, like, yeah, I can do comedy, but I can also do this. So I liked that. The problem is the script doesn't give them anything to do. And it just is... Now a lot of the controversies were like, apparently Olivia Wilde was hard to work with. She showed favoritism towards Harry Styles with her making out with him in style, and also her coming out and saying, like, yeah, it's everyone's like yelling at me because I'm a woman, and I'm like, oh god, here we go. Like, I don't like when movies play the sex card, where if your movie isn't good, you then come out and say, oh, it's because I'm this certain gender, isn't it? And it's like, no, it's not. Like me with the reboot to Ghostbusters. I don't like it. I do understand that people do like it, and that's fine. There were certain elements in that movie that I did like, but mostly I didn't like it. But you also had a ton of people online that were just saying, like, just nasty things, saying like, oh, this absolutely sucked, even though some of them hadn't even seen the movie, harping on it, and then coming out and saying, like, oh, it's because, you can't have an all-female Ghostbusters team, can you? It's like, no, that's not it. It's just that the movie wasn't good, at least to me. But they kind of did that, and I'm like, don't do that again. I've seen that done so many times, and I think when you do that, it hurts the movie. So, did the controversies hurt this movie? Maybe, but I wasn't thinking about that while watching it. And another thing, too, is that, yeah, the script, it starts going in a certain direction. It's like, okay, I want to see where this goes. But then halfway through the movie, I went, oh, man, I really hope, like, they don't, like, bring in a twist. Because I heard there was a twist, but I didn't hear what it was. And when, like halfway through the movie, I was like, oh, man, I really hope they don't do this, or it's not this. And then they did it, and I went, oh, that's a cheap shot right there. I'm not going to spoil the twist, but it's something where you could expect a very, very C-grade M. Night Shyamalan twist, where it's something that's like, oh, well, I've seen that before. And it's like, oh, okay, whatever. So, and also a lot of the thing about this movie is that this movie's 2 hours long. It felt longer, but the problem is that it was an hour and a half of buildup until it hits a twist that makes it comes out of nowhere and just your head scratching like, what? Like, that makes no sense. Like, why would you bring that in? And I think what they should have done was kept going the way they were going, but changed the twist on what they were doing. Like I said, I'm trying not to spoil what happens, but yeah, the twist comes out of nowhere and it's like, what was that? I'm like, all right, whatever. And even though it's a 2-hour movie and the pacing is very, very slow, so it feels longer, it feels like there's scenes that they cut out of the movie. So I'm going like, wait, what happened with this? What about this? Okay, that's the end. Like, what happened? So, like I said, there was stuff I liked about it, but then it was like, it's like that scene in Christmas Vacation where they're sitting at the table, they have the turkey, the presentation of the turkey looks nice. That is the positive of the movie. But then once they open it up, it like opens up like an alien egg and like starts smoking like a cauldron. That's everything inside the movie. Like, as you look deeper into it, it's like, oh, okay, that's not all that good. And that's the other thing too. Like, this is basically like Florence Pugh is holding this movie together. She is the best actor in the movie. I mean, like I said, I've liked her in everything she's been in, but she's the one carrying the movie, and it's mainly because not everyone else has a lot to do. So, I mean, I don't think it's a fine, because there were certain things that I liked more than I didn't. So I think it gets an average. It's like, I liked it up to a certain point, and then it just started dragging, and then I was getting like bored, but also impatient. Like, guys, can we speed this up a little bit? I don't need you to go like a snail the entire movie. So can we speed this up, please? So it's an average, and yeah, a lot of good potential that I think was wasted.
Our life together. We could lose this.
I don't trust him.